to the cloud. So, welcome again to another episode of Healing Money Talks. As always, I invite you to turn off your mobile phone, put the kettle on, make yourself a nice warm drink, sit down somewhere comfortable if you possibly can, relax and really give yourself the gift of listening deeply. You never know what you might hear in one of these conversations that you've never thought of before that might just change your life. So my guest today is Louis Bohtlingk. Louis was born in the Netherlands. He's a trained intuitive and psychic counsellor, a certified bookkeeper, a workshop leader, and he is the founder of the World Finance Initiative and Care First World. Louis is the author of Dare to Care, a love-based foundation for money and finance, written in cooperation with Hazel Henderson, and of Care First, which is written in Dutch. These books deeply embrace our personal transformation in relation to our money issues, and it advocates and embodies the deeply needed paradigm shift in the field of economics and finance. Louis says, I truly believe that care is the way forward as the primary action in all our dealings with money. We've created an international, all-generational Care First innovation network to build a world governed by Care First. Welcome, Louis. Thank you so much for joining me. And I know that you would like, before we start the actual conversation, to just bring us into a space. So the floor is yours.
Well, welcome everyone. Yes, I would like to take us into an inner space where I introduce the vision of Care First. And we can experience that together. So I want to ask you all to close your eyes. So relax into your body. Relax into your heart. Breathe through your heart. Feel the connection of your body to this beautiful planet and the support and the love that the earth provides to us all. Then go to your heart. Just notice how you feel in your heart for a moment. And breathe more deeply into it. And from your heart, move through your seventh chakra into your light, into your higher self. And there, if you want to, you can imagine all of us listening to this call to stand together in a circle. I will read something to you that is part of a document called Building a Care First World Together to introduce the vision. So just take the words in, be with them, and see what happens to you. Building a Care First World Together. A Care First World is a world in which care for the well-being of people and our planet comes first. Money is used to make well-being possible. Everyone can provide for their basic human needs and develop themselves. We care for the earth, who provides us with so much. We experience the earth as a gift we can share with each other. We work with the understanding that we as humanity have the freedom to regulate the flow of money according to our deepest wishes and heart's desire, and that there is no need to accept the mess we are in. that together we can find the clarity to heal the financial world at its heart, and that this is the same as the healing of our own heart. The healing of our own heart will give us the clarity to direct money in this new way. The way of the heart is fully applicable in business. In paying our employees, we can express our appreciation for the work they have done and for who they are. In paying our suppliers, we can show gratitude for their service and give support and care for their business. When our customers appreciate our business because we provide quality and care for them, they gladly pay us. We can all be happy when fair profits are being made. It adds well-deserved value above cost by which we support ourselves. When the financial exchanges among people are fair and mutually supportive, it is a win-win situation for all. It is caring and supportive. It is real togetherness and sharing. In order to create a care-first world, I see 4 shifts we can make from one level of experience and consciousness to another. First shift, to move from a place where we try to get and take our piece of the gift of the earth towards standing around the gift together and receiving and sharing it. Second shift, to move from ownership to stewardship. Third shift, to move from a use of money based on our greed, fear, power, selfishness, possessiveness, to a use of money based on caring, sharing, loving, giving and receiving. Fourth action, to move from a money-first attitude to a care-first attitude. We apply care first when we put care first and let money serve that care. We apply money first when we put money first at the expense of what we care about. I see money first and care first as the 2 aspects of our test with money. In a care-first world, we use money in service of our caring, our values and our passion. We use it in service of the well-being of ourselves, each other and the earth. Care first creates a love-based economy. In a money-first world, we use money at the expense of our caring, our values and our passion. We use it at the expense of the well-being of ourselves, each other and the earth. Money first creates a fear-based economy. When we look at care first and money first inside of ourselves, we can see that when we live in money first, we're tense, alone, in separation, fearful and depressed. When we live in care first, we're strong, vibrant, happy, and most of all, in harmony with ourselves. Care first stabilizes the world because it stabilizes our psyche. Care first sustains the world because it sustains us. Money first destabilizes the world and is not sustainable. Can you see what will happen to our world when we move from a money first to a care first attitude? So thank you. You can slowly open up your eyes. And then Emmen and I can communicate with one another.
I had an alarm going off. Thank you, Louis. Thank you so much. I wanted to ask you a bit more about how this is evolving for you. These messages came to you quite some time ago, didn't they? You had a download of a Louis and I met on a workshop that he ran called Meeting the Mystery of Money. And am I right in thinking that all came together, the Care First and the workshop, or did they come separately?
No, the whole thing started in the 80s when I, out of the practice, our psychic intuitive practice, where we were assisting people with their lives, and was involved in what was called at the time the New Age, really the transformation of just about everything. I had the sense that there was something really important going on around money. And I felt like an inner calling to come face to face with it. I didn't have a lot of money issues, but I still felt that. And I could see it also in spiritual movements where people were together in circles and being together in the oneness. But when it came down to the money issues at their centers, that often it was as if we were all pulled back into an older space, into the older world. And I felt something is needed.
Yeah.
And my sense was that in order to make that shift, I had to first look at my fear in relationship to money and humanity's fear and see if I could move towards love. So it was in 1989. And then I felt I wanted to make a shift to see if I could really get into my heart so that then I could look at everything that concerned money and economics from my heart. And so I got in there by March 1990 through processes that had nothing to do with money. They were just my personal karmic outworkings. But then by March 1990, I really arrived in my heart through which I could look at every financial transaction and ask myself, does it start with love? Does it end with love? And does it walk the path of love? And I realized in the early 90s that it was a very extreme way of looking at things. And that very often in those worlds, there was like a separation between my life with money and my heart. And of course, I realized those things had to come together. So I had a dream in 1993
Yeah.
that is also connected to Barbara Wilder that you interviewed,
Yeah.
where I saw money and love come together in the dream. They became the same thing. I thought, wow, what is that? So in my mind, I thought, what would happen in a bank if those two were married? How would the bank respond to the needs of people? Uh, and of course, from your heart, from care, you would want to help. So I started working with the connection between money and love from 93 onwards. And then in 1997, I received the vision for Care First. So then in the 90s, I built up a vision for a love-based economy and a care first world. And a lot of people really resonated with that because everything was connected to the heart. But then the question was, how do we make that real? And then in 2004, I received the inspiration for that workshop, Meeting the Mystery of Money, that really helped people with incarnating these ideas and making them practical into their own life. And that's the workshop you joined.
And your experience with the workshop, I gather, is that most people are bringing the same wounds, the same shame, the same guilt, the same fear.
Yeah, a really important part of that, Emma, is, and that's a very hopeful sign. I've also been on my website interviewed by Hazel Henderson, with whom I wrote my book, and she was so fascinated in the workshop and what happened there. And it is true. When people come to the workshop, to a lot of people, money issues are private.
Yeah.
So they often don't hear it from each other. Well, within 1 or 2 hours of being in the workshop, most people begin to realize that there is nothing original about their own problem, that we actually all have the same issues,
Yeah.
but we also all vote for the same answer. And that creates real hope for humanity.
Yes.
Because if it works like that in our side, I never have discussions in the workshop about care first. Everybody wants to go there.
Yeah.
Eh? And we all care for the same thing. So the workshop helps to unite people in an action, really, if you properly look at it.
Yeah. And what have you experienced of what are the what are there movements? Are you feeling like it's now beginning, that the ripples are starting to extend, that it's starting to take hold a little bit, this different way of looking at things?
Well, I feel that a different way of looking at things, I already saw that when I started. I mean, you have in the Netherlands a bank called Triodos Bank.
Mm-hmm.
It's already 30, 40 years. That was voted the most sustainable bank on the planet, maybe 5, 6 years ago. You know, and they in their year report were not putting the profit first, but they were putting first what they were doing, and then seeing how the money was serving that. So I have been following all sorts of movements for a long, long time, who in my mind are zooming into the line of assisting money to just be a simple servant
Mm-hmm.
to the things that we want and the things that we need. The money thing really should be very simple. You should just have a nice, if we all agree to use money, if we do that, and I
Yeah.
don't say we have to, we can use complementary currency. We can also decide not to use money, whatever we want. But if we use it, let's create a system where there is a constructive money flow, which I call golden water. Eh? And that money flows between us in exchanges everywhere, healing and supporting the space. But it's just a flow.
Yeah.
That's like Barbara talks about money as love. It just flows like that. And it shouldn't do more than that. It should just keep its role and not become the power and not become all the things that we've made of it that aren't working for us, not create that terrible inequality that
Mm.
exists on this planet.
Yeah. And we need to raise the vibration around it, don't we? And not have this crunchy energy of fear which leaves us all stuck. And it's very difficult for us to move forward when we're in that energy.
That is right. And there are two things there. If you look at the workshop, when people come to the workshop, that contracted space to lesser or greater degree is in most people.
Yeah.
It's partially just our own psyche, but it's also what we have created
Yeah.
socially and economically. Because that care that I talk about is not embedded into the space. It's you need to get it yourself. You need to do it. So it creates, we have to make that money. That can create a lot of tension. It also opens up creativity and all this kind of thing, but it can also make it very difficult, especially if we're trying to get that money with work that we're not happy with. That builds up an enormous amount of tension and pain. So we get into a contracted space.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole thing, and that's really what the workshop helps to do, is to shift that around so that you come out of a victimized relationship to the system that we're in, and you realize that you can be you and that you can decide what you want to do with money, even if you haven't consciously created that system, but know that we can recreate it and empower yourself. And then there are two things to do, is that we allow that abundance to be there with us so that we manifest more and create a social economic system that is much more abundant for everybody. So like in the States, you raise the minimum wage to at least $15. That's a lot better than 7 or 8.
Isn't it? Yeah, and when you talk about people working in their bliss, well, you didn't necessarily say those words, but when we're happy and content, everything does just flow. Work doesn't feel like work anymore, or work is a joy. I have a little card on my table that I looked at this morning that said, "Money loves to flow to joy, towards joy." And you're right. So many people are so unaligned with what they're doing. And for me, what's happening at the moment on the planet with COVID is giving us a real space to make assessments. I feel like lots of people for lots of decades, centuries we've worked in order to earn money, to almost numb ourselves to the work that we're doing, because very few people are actually aligned with the work that they're doing. And those who are almost feeling, well, I couldn't possibly get rewarded for that. I couldn't possibly take money for that. I mean, healers are a real case in point for me. They're the ones who are most resistant to money. Oh no, it's my gift. I couldn't take anything for that. But when we start to really value each other's gifts and value our own gifts.
That's it. I mean, it's interesting because when I started my healing practice, I also had that very, very light thought, and you almost have to turn it around. Because it is your gift, have the money too. Why
Yeah.
not? What a load of rubbish. Sorry. What a load of, it's like because we're not accustomed to it being that flow. And I've been surprised also in doing the workshop how important that marriage between money and the heart is.
Mm.
I mean, then you can say money. You can also call it any other complementary system. But the reason why it's so important, because I really only begin to understand money now as relationship. So what my wife Sandra and I had done in our practice to try to play with money and love from the 1990s onwards, instead of asking for a fixed charge, and I got nothing against that, we opened it up to appreciation
Mm-hmm.
and capacity. So we would say to people, because when you do a session, you just want to help the people. You don't want to have them to think about the money. So we do the work, and then you make a contribution from your heart, considering your own situation
Yeah.
and ours. So people in the beginning say, oh, what is all this? But what they have to do, they actually have to relate. You don't just pay the money for the session. You have to feel Louis, think of yourself. So you
Mm.
come into relationship. And then the money is expressing that relationship, the gratitude and the love. And that changes everything. And that's where I feel really the home of money is for me. I'm now at Fintorn, and they've been raising quite a lot of money this year in a really good way. And the finance director said last night, we work with relational philanthropy, meaning that we actually talk to each other
Yeah.
and then do the money thing.
And as you're saying that, I'm wondering how that would extend into that makes a lot of sense in the service industry. Um, how would that translate into bricks and mortar and products, do you think?
Into products, say a little bit more about that.
Well, I suppose I'm scanning the supermarket and thinking everything's got a fixed price. Where for me to buy organic whatever, it would be more of a stretch than it would be for somebody who's got millions of pounds in their bank account. So I wonder if ultimately we're going to move into that space of being able to pay as we can.
Yeah, I mean, there are, I know, I don't know what the name is, but I know that there's a restaurant in New York where you can pay what you want. I know in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, I know there's a cafe where you do that. And they're very, very successful. I think the fundamental thing is there's for me nothing wrong with a fixed price. But what needs to happen everywhere, I think, to get to this space is that the consideration of each other and care first comes into the game. So that when you know that people want organic food, but it's too expensive for them, you
Yeah.
don't just sell it at the price that is too much for them. You ask yourself how you want to be together on this planet. Do we want to have a shop where people want to buy organic food and can't pay for it? No, if we don't want it, then what do we do? So
Mm,
then you just accommodate the space creatively so that we're all happy. And
yeah.
then we get happy with the money. I think I know of another place in England or in the Netherlands who very consciously lowered the prices of organic food in a particular kind of way just to make the flow possible.
Mm-hmm.
Just creating happiness with a simple tool called money. That's it. And not create pain. Because when people come to the workshop, I ask them about their fear and their pain. And it will always relate to things that are done with money that are
Mm-hmm.
not done with the best of intention or even with maybe from very difficult energies like greed, selfishness, and so on. But when it is used in a loving and caring way, everybody's happy.
Mm.
Unfortunately, a lot of people have more unhappy experiences than happy ones.
They do, and I think you just alighted on greed. Was it you when at the workshop that talked about when, or I've read it somewhere, that when the Pilgrim Fathers arrived in America and they came and they tried to take the land from the Native Americans, and they were like, you can't own the ground and the sky and the air. This is all wrong.
That is
And,
right.
and we have gone so far down that ownership, and I think it's ownership that makes us feel,
Correct.
that makes the greed and the fear,
Correct.
because we think it'll be taken away from us.
Yeah. I mean, that is like, that was in the vision piece.
Mm-hmm.
Garden, a love which is going in the care first world. There I talk about ownership in the earth. And that for me, it's actually really good you touch upon it. My foundation for economics is an experience that I had in 1987 when I was sitting at Christmas in somebody's kitchen and I was worried about how we're using up the resources of this planet.
Yeah.
And suddenly I could feel this energy come up from below. And I felt that that was the love of the mother for all
Mm.
of us. But that love, that is the expression of everything that is material. And I felt that we had to learn to receive that love in our hearts. And I felt that if I really received it, all I could do is share it.
Mm.
But as soon as I would say to that love, to that material gift, this is mine, it was almost like an insult to that love given. So ownership in the sense of taking responsibility or stewarding something responsible is fine.
Yeah.
When you say ownership, this is mine, and you separate it from the whole.
Yeah.
And of course, money legally, through money, you can buy things and they legally become yours.
Mm.
Well, what is all that? Is it yours?
Of course not.
So that's a really important part of what we are promoting, is to shift from ownership.
Mm. Does that feel like a shift that's close and tangible?
Well, I have two friends in the Netherlands, Jacques Hielema and Damaris Matthijssen, and they say something very, very strong. They say, in order to create that lovely world that you talk about, Louis, when you look at the four actions that I share,
Mm-hmm.
we need to take labor, land, and capital out of the market.
Loving Warrior. I was having a conversation with Loving Warrior recently. She's one of
So you can't trade the land. Well, they are connected to a guy in the Netherlands who has a place called Het Veerhuis.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a center.
Uh-huh.
And that Veerhuis was just owned in a normal way. Well, they set that land free. So the land is held in a trust. It's returned back to the mother. So there are and they do quite a lot in the Netherlands with approaching land ownership in a different way. When
Amazing.
you relate it to labor, that means that you can't own a worker
Mm-hmm.
and have power over a worker. You collaborate together.
Mm-hmm.
And in relationship to capital, again, I mean, that of course is a huge question. I'm not going to put any judgment over what people are doing. But in my simple picture of money just flows as a good constructive flow of money, why should you make money out of money? We're doing that. Trillions are being made just out of trading, currency trading, stock trading. And is any of that needed? Is my question.
And it's very, yeah, isn't it something like 50%? It might even be more than 50% of the American economy is actually nothing. It's simply the trading.
Or
There is
it's
nothing.
huge. It might even be 97. I'm not sure.
It's a big percentage.
Huge.
So we do need, and we've not got much time left, but just so what can we do as individuals and as collectives to spread this and to make it, because it's a shift like Barbara talks about. I love the shift in consciousness. You know, we're in this fear, guilt, shame,
Yeah.
and we just need to think about things differently and do things differently, and then we go the other way. So what
Well,
what can we do in our
I
lives,
think
would
the
you
thing,
say?
I have a friend in the state called Steve Schuett, And he started the socially responsible investing movement together with others 30, 40 years ago. So there you make conscious, caring decision about how you invest your money. But he's always been really, really behind Care First.
Mm-hmm.
I think the power of Care First is that it doesn't just direct the flow of money, it directs everything. So when you ask me, well, what can we do? It's just feel, experience, and understand Care First and apply it.
Yeah.
Eh? And a really important part here is self-care first. I talk in my book about angel disease,
Mm-hmm.
and I describe that as people with angelic nature, most of us, uh, in 5 seconds are there for the other to help them
Yes.
and give them that love.
Yeah.
But almost can have a blind spot to giving that same love to themselves. And we
Yes.
call that self-care first. So I would say apply the love, apply the care. Look in your own life and see where you are applying money first and care first. Where are you doing things or thinking things with money that harm yourself? Are you
Mm.
having a job that you're not happy with? Why should you be doing that? Don't just stop the job, but say, is this what I want to do?
Mm.
And see then if you can make the shift to something better. So you can constantly look at money first and care first. And then the other thing is that I've been waiting since 1997 for this thing to really sort of, let's say, go global, because I think a lot of my friends who've been with Care First share a deep wish that it would be wonderful if governments, companies, individuals can all make decisions through a Care First lens. And this Steve Sheward has called it possibly the most powerful force for good in relationship to life decision making. So um, but we have wanted to get this message around the planet, and so we're now more consciously pursuing that, how we can get this around through music, through story, through example.
Mm.
And I hope that everyone listening to this call will hear more in the next 10 years
I'm
about Care
sure.
First, because I think it can assist shifting climate change, income inequality, and all these things.
Yeah. And schools. I heard my daughter the other day. She was recording something. She's 15, my daughter, and she was recording something, having a right grumble about school, saying, "Oh, quadratic equations. I want to know how to take out a loan." And so maybe there's a space with everything that's going on at the moment, with the cracks that are opening up in society. Maybe we can start to drip through the cracks these messages.
Yeah, I mean, with the young people, I worked as a cleaner once,
Hmm.
on a elementary school. The kids were there between 6 and 10, and the teacher heard about Care First, so she said to me, "Can you talk to the kids?" I said, "Sure." And that is a really important thing, because you can bring really simple images into their mind that create a whole other space to which they can see that
Hmm.
money can be used in a totally different way than the conditioning that they very quickly receive through the world that they're in. So the young generation, absolutely, that's it.
Yeah. So parents, teachers, anybody who's moving around in young people's circles, it is
Everybody.
absolutely. I think we are really stopping and thinking at the moment. Lots of people who would never they wouldn't even have been able to hear these messages 12 months ago. There is definitely a space
Yeah.
opening up.
And so maybe a greater space has happened, because I always make the joke, when I was speaking about Care First and love-based economy already in the 90s, when the crisis came in 2008,
Hmm.
before 2008, my joke would be, well, who is this Louis? Oh, this Louis is a nice guy. He talks about a love-based economy and a Care First world, boom. And we just go on.
Yeah.
When 2008 came and the whole thing began to shake, people went like, yeah, this Louis, now what did he say? What was he talking about? Oh, oh yes. Because people realized we need a completely different foundation.
Yeah. And we need little groups. The butterfly. When a
Yeah,
caterpillar goes into its chrysalis, the whole thing breaks down, and then These little imagine they're called imaginary cells, and they get together, little clusters and another little cluster and another, and eventually all the clusters come together. So the more that our clusters can come together, and we'll put some links out with for to Steve's work alongside, so that we can just, if we join up all the dots,
Yeah.
we're going to create the picture.
Yeah, and you can give everyone the link Building a Care First World Together.
Yeah.
21 pages, and at the end I also have a bunch of links to what different people are doing, but an enormous amount is going on
Yeah.
with this shift. You
Yeah.
just don't always hear about it in the news.
No, we don't. And I think the other thing is inspired action. So if listening to this interview is making you think, I want to know more about this, I want to start spreading this more into the world and embodying it and living it, then click all the links, follow, go down those rabbit holes and see
Absolutely.
where they take us.
Thank you.
Louis, thank you so very much. All the links are below, so anybody who wants to jump onto Louis's mailing list and find out what he's up to, just follow the links below and yeah, see where it all takes you. Is there anything else you wanted to say, Louis, with your beautiful, loving energy to our audience?
No, just that I would love to see everyone who's listening. Bless you and bless your lives and bless our lives with COVID. And I think that we, like you say, I feel those things are indicators for steps we can take. So let's learn what we need to learn. And I pray that together we can reverse climate change, income inequality, and all these things, and really get there together.
I think we will. Thank you. Peace.